Welcome back to In His Mind. So there's something that I think I'm finally putting the pieces together, and that is on what is happening during, this may not necessarily be the collapse of the U.S. here. I don't think I would go that far, but the societal collapse and the collapse of the family structure in the unit, the nuclear family, so to speak. I think there's a couple of pieces in here, and it's tied to responsibility. And I noted earlier when I was talking with my gym trainer that I want to say, and I'll give him some credit for this too, this wasn't on my own, but I want to say that I do better in a conversation or a dialoguing discussion of some kind where I can kind of like bounce some ideas and thoughts off of others, just so I could get some feedback on where they stand and what they see. What they see is always different than what I see, for better or worse. So, in short, the responsibilities between men and women are different. But as you see less and less families, more and more issues, the responsibilities become blurred and then lost outright. When the family structure gets tampered with, there are changes to that in some way, shape, or form. When fathers leave the picture, there's a lot that just simply becomes worse. It's hard to say what the impact is greater, who the impact is greater on, boys or girls. Both need a father. But I want to say both need a father, and it's more important at different stages of their lives. I think a father is needed more for the girl's life early on. And as I noted, and this is a slight deviation here, but as I noted, girls tend to respond to morality, basically right and wrong, differently than boys and men. And if it's not brought into their life at an earlier age, it's harder for them to grow up on it and to bring it into their life. It's a lot easier earlier on than it is for boys and all that. It's just like their adaptation to morality is just a lot harder overall. And there's a lot that goes down. There's a lot that can be talked about when going down that road. Now, responsibility for men would generally be seen as those who make income and who deal with the finances, the heavy work. They set the guidelines for their kids and all that. Discipline, in other words. There's a lot that just men generally excel at better. And when you remove some of these responsibilities, or you simply take them away and you don't give a replacement to them, there's going to be issues there. And tying this to the church with what they're talking about, when they talk about responsibilities to the man, to the household of the family, the head of the household of the family, they usually leave women out of the picture, and if they do, it's from a supportive role. Women are supposed to support inside of the relationship. If they happen to have some leadership skills, in some rare exceptions, they could actually be the leaders of the family. They could take all the responsibility, because that's something that is rarely ever talked about. Is, with authority and power comes responsibility. And it seems to be very hard for women to handle the responsibility in the same way that men do. It just seems to be, the strain and stress seems to be a lot harder. There are a lot of statistics that do kind of back that up. I haven't looked at any statistics, and the ones that I did, I honestly forgot. But with all of this being blurred, it's really hard to tell what is remaining, what has left, and then what the church's involvement in all of this is. Because right now, I'm not seeing the church involved. Of course, my site is limited to the churches in the area and to what I remember from the past. But with authority and responsibility, it's generally geared towards the man, towards the men in marriages and, fathers and all of that. Generally, it's not geared towards women at all. There is something else too, but I'm kind of drawing a blank on it because there's 2 parts to it, and I did talk about something earlier too that did trigger it. I can't really think well when I'm driving either. I'm actually parking in front of Waffle House because when I'm done here, I'm gonna go in and grab something to eat, and I'll be uploading this video. And I'll be putting some Bible verses up that talk about, oh, that's what it was. This was about women and support. Yeah, it was talking about responsibility in women. Yeah. The second part I just remembered was something I noticed that I asked some of the men in some Bible, this one Bible study I went to back in 2019, and all I got was nervous chuckles, laughter, so to speak. Why are there no godly women talked about in the Bible? The ones who are talked about are basically prostitutes and a handful of submissive women that were raised to higher places. The prime example would be Queen Esther, where Queen Vashti was disposed because she refused to go see the king, and as a result she was replaced. And Esther found favor in the king's sight when a whole slew of handmaidens and women were brought before the king and presented. She found favor with the king and ended up being married to him. And so as a result, she was a Jew, and she had found favor and was able to influence the king. And the whole book of Esther recounts all of that in a very wonderful story. And submissiveness, the humbleness, humility, a lot of this stuff is important and crucial to women. But when you take a look at it, you won't really find great women in the Bible. You'll just find women who were, they saw the greater picture, and they chose to make, what's the word? They chose to be very responsive to God and to making right decisions overall. And as a result, people, or they themselves, were blessed. Rahab with the spies, with Jericho, when she provided a safe haven for them temporarily. When the walls of Jericho came crumbling down, that section of the wall was left standing so that her and her family could be safe or saved. I'm not sure which. It's hard to say what exactly happened when there's almost no images of Jericho and of what it looked like, because anything could have fallen. It could have all fallen, and they could have been saved afterwards. That portion of the building could have been saved when everything else fell. Like, who knows? Point in case is they were responsive, and as a result, they were blessed. They made the right decisions, and they were blessed. The only great people that you hear about in the Bible are men, plain and simple. And it's just something to note as far as tying this to responsibility, and because you get power, you get authority, then you have the responsibility to handle that properly. And I think it's a lot harder for women just to handle the responsibility overall, mainly because they're very focused on themselves and their children. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It really is not, because wanting the best for your family is definitely a priority. Everyone agrees with this. In fact, marriage is supposed to be the go-to, the example that God said as far as this is how things should be, because it is safe, it is best, and on top of that is blessed for pretty much everyone involved when you have a healthy relationship going. Everyone should be always held accountable to someone else, and for the men it should be the church. Now, for politics, the only play this part's in is basically when you have a whole collection of people together in one country. That's where politics matter, as far as like guiding the entire nation. And by that standards, sometimes you have to play dirty and do some atrocious things to keep things in line. You know, World War II is a very prime example of like what exactly could happen when things go off and get done incorrectly or worse. You have spies and you have to deal with them. Traitors, spies, all of that. Yeah, that's basically it. All right. Till next time, I'm going to get some food and hope you all have a good rest of your day.